everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. I'm going to launch straight in. I hope you can see these pictures okay. I've got quite a lot of them. Here's a fantastic scene of a port, and after all, we're talking about ports here and sponsorship, the corporate marketplace. A complicated place. There's lots of power, there's lots of transport, there's security, there's shipping containers, there's a lot going on. And this sort of said something to me when I was thinking about this title, Engaging the Corporate Marketplace in Support of Port Sponsorship, Hospitality and Trainees. That's a big world, really. There's a lot to say about that. But I don't want to sort of overcomplicate it too much. I want to take a different view, so I've got a sort of sub-heading for this talk. We have sound problem, we have some music as well.
If I may, Guy, is there an opportunity? Thanks, Ross. If you can have a look next door and have them cancel their presentation. Ours is more important.
I'll try and talk a bit louder over them, maybe. So this chap, this jolly sailor, jolly fisherman, comes to mind for the subtext of what I want to say here. Something a bit more lighthearted, something a bit more strategic. There's lots of detail, including a great speech that happened last year about sponsorship that I will refer you to. But this jolly chap was tasked with bringing tourism to a fantastic place in England called Skegness, the jolly fisherman. And he sort of epitomises the way I want to talk about this today, a little bit more carefree, give you an overview, some of my ideas about how you can approach these things without getting too academic about it. So my subtitle is How I Learned to Stop Worrying and to Love Asking for Money. So I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but essentially that's what we're talking about pretty much here. How do we get some financial input here for our corporate marketplace? There's three important words that came in the title: sponsorship, trainees, and hospitality. Three sectors that are really the foundations of how we perhaps engage with the corporate marketplace. And every port event has something to do with these elements. And they're all different and they're all connected. This motif is important throughout what I have to say here. It represents being holistic about what you do, being connected and looking at not just sponsorship on its own, not just trainees on their own, not hospitality on their own, but looking at them all together. So when you have a marketing team or an operations team within your port, your council or your harbour master's office, whatever it may be, think about them all together. Think about the world that you're presenting and how you need to go ahead with that. And I'm thinking about that in fundraising terms. However, we've got another world down here below the horizon, and that's engagement, the other important word in the title here. It's all very well having all these assets that you have and talking to the corporate marketplace, but actually how do you engage them? And it's not just about telling them what you've got, it's about really engaging them, getting them to understand and believe and have some emotional connection with what you're doing. Connection is a good point. Connecting that world of engagement and connecting it with the world of fundraising. Be connected. It's what I call joined up marketing. So you will have, when you're thinking about your port event in 2 years' time or 3 years' time or 4 years' time, you'll have operations departments, you'll have a design department, you'll have a sponsorship manager maybe, you might have business engagement managers, you'll have event managers. This will work much better engaging the corporate marketplace if those are all connected and joined up and they communicate well. And this little symbol up here in the top left, that's representative of being connected, three little people, three little icons. So that'll pop up throughout this to remind me to tell you and to you to see it that this idea of being connected within your operation will give you many more opportunities and angles for approaching the corporate market. Now, this picture up here on top of our little globe, the red line, a couple of important red lines there, the red line running down from the top to the bottom. We all know what that is. It's the meridian, and this is a reference to time for me. Cutting through Greenwich, where I worked this summer for the Tall Ships event there. And this is all about the element, the dynamic of time. So if you can see this symbol down here in the bottom left, the idea here is to give yourself time. If you've got an event, you know the date, make sure you start as early as possible. Doesn't mean you continue the whole time up until the event, but start your planning, start your preparation early. This dynamic, if you've got it on your side, will give you more opportunities again. So these are some themes that I'll go through and keep coming back to as we go. So some of the themes I want to explore here here's the first one. How does a business community engage with port events? So how does it actually happen? This is my local swimming club in 1860 in Brighton, where I live on the south coast. Obviously sponsored by their local top hat manufacturer, I would say. They represent the business community to me. And a point here this picture makes. How does a business community engage with port events? Very good question. We're not all ports, actually. Greenwich, where I worked this summer, we had a fantastic event. It's not a port. It's a borough on the river in London. It doesn't have huge, extensive, focused port facilities. This is just a reminder and a demonstration of actually everywhere is different. Arlesund is different from Greenwich, Liverpool is different from Belfast, etc., etc. And each has its own microclimate in a way, its own socio-economic environment. So we're all different. So the same rules do not apply to everybody. And I think we'll hear a bit about that perhaps in the next speech about a different situation. But let's have a look. We've got three things here. We've got some lovely hospitality going on up there. We've got a couple of trainees being sponsored by Berkeley Homes, one of the sponsors in Greenwich, having had a fantastic opportunity staying on a tool ship. And we've got a sponsorship banner. So we've got sponsorship, hospitality, and trainees going on there. Can anyone spot the deliberate mistake on the sponsorship slide at the bottom there? Actually, this is an image that came up when I was Googling sponsorship for Greenwich. It's a misspelling in the word principal. It's something that was brought up at the time. Our lead sponsor came up with it. And it was just a reminder as I came across it. And I think, oh, do I use that slide? Staying connected with your sponsors as well, once you've got them on board, can help you get over any errors sometimes and make sure that the right things happen. Saying that, you can't do everything. You can't make sure everything is perfect. What I want to say briefly about this, and it's something I come on to in a bit more detail, is keeping these things together in one place is an important thing when you come to thinking about your sponsorship. These are very valuable assets. Sponsorship is the overall concept here of what you want to leverage from the corporate marketplace, the money you want to get from them. Putting hospitality and trainees into packages with those gives you more power, I would say. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail, but it helps you start with the highest package. That's the point. Highest value package, sorry. A more complete package. We'll break that down a little bit soon, but I think if you can do that, and time is an issue here, if you've got lots of time and you're much more able to do that kind of thing, then that's a good thing. Here's another thing I want to talk about. CSR, corporate social responsibility. This links to trainees. So here's an interesting photo that tells us a few things from Greenwich. We have here in the light blue shirts, Seafarers UK, one of our two partner charities, and a few of their trainees they brought along there. We've got the CEO, Duncan, from Jubilee Sailing Trust, and they're on board toolship Tenacious, a very special toolship which helps disabled sailors have fantastic sail training experiences. And we have Sea Cadets, our other partner charity, and they're represented there in this photo, which was a big photo shoot. And who else do we have? Of course, we have Boris Johnson, the Mayor of London. So behind this camera, we have lots of other photographers. And this was a fairly big PR event. It made the press. And the point is, it's no coincidence, actually, that the press came to see this one and that Boris Johnson came to an event where there are actually 3-4 charities, arguably, represented. That's the photo shoot that he wanted to be in. CSR is incredibly powerful. And with your trainees, that isn't supposed to happen. With your trainees, that's what they represent, corporate responsibility. Companies being able to connect with a cause-related activity. It's a growing trend. That's not news, but it's continuing to grow. In terms of sponsorship trends generally, I'm not talking about toolship festivals only, it's something that is growing and growing. Perhaps through these austere years we've had, being real and being authentic has become more important. You should be aware of that and how important these trainees are to you, not just for the experience they have and the whole reason we're doing this, but actually in the value they hold. Apologies, the words are coming off, the font has changed for some reason. But employee engagement is still at the forefront of what sponsors want to do sometimes. Not every sponsor by any means, But in terms of trends, that also is important. So engaging their employees, getting them to understand what's happening at these events, why they're sponsoring, that's very important. It's good for editorial. These are real stories, after all. It's content. One of those big buzzwords at the moment, content. And you can fulfill your trainee obligations if you really focus on CSR, corporate social responsibility, as an element of your marketing strategy. Quick diversion here. My favourite photo from Greenwich. Got a lot of press, got a bit of criticism. There's Boris Johnson doing his salute. A lot of people said that wasn't the right kind of salute for a naval scene. This chap's from the Royal Navy, he should know, different kind of salute. And again, Harry should know as well, but that's Royal Air Force, is it not? I don't know. Perhaps someone in the audience here knows the right way of doing it. But I wasn't the only one to think, hang on, he reminds me of him a little bit when this happens. A slight diversion, but it was a great photo, and I thought it was worth talking about Mr. Tenacious himself. So, moving on from CSR, as we talk about charity, what about charitable foundations? What do we know about those? They exist all over the world. Charitable foundations are mechanisms for big corporations to engage in cause-related and charity activities through set up and structured offices and departments that give a lot of money. We should know about this. After all, in the UK alone, a few years ago, £1.2 billion was given in 1 year by charitable foundations to cause-related events and activity in the UK. I don't know how that's represented Europe-wide, worldwide, but that figure will be multiplied greatly. So we should be aware of this. How do we connect with this potential source of funding, which primarily will be important for our trainees? So what about the charities themselves? There's the Sea Cadets and Seafarers again, in front of the Cutty Sark. This is what they did for us in Greenwich. Just one example of how a charity partner can actually help leverage funding for you and trainees. So I should say something about Seafarers, who were really the lead partner in a way. Seafarers UK are a charity, a grant-giving charity. They give funds, which they raise, millions of pounds every year, to 200 plus other maritime charities with all sorts of causes, from working with young people going to sea, sail training, to Sea Cadets, some training and life skills through those experiences, to veterans of military campaigns who've perhaps been in the Royal Navy and have issues to deal with in the coming, all sorts of things. So they're a grant-giving charity. As such, they have 200 plus members and affiliates that they work with, a great network, that's the point, a network they have that we didn't have. In their network, they approached the livery companies in London. Livery companies are venerable old institutions with charitable arms, if you like, and charitable donations they give every year. We had no particular connection with them. One of their partners came to the forefront of something that we did, and that was Greenwich Hospital. Again, a maritime connection, a connection with Greenwich, but they had a special relationship with them, as they did with many of their other partners, and they were able to use that relationship. They did the work, not us, to find some trainees. So they ended up sponsoring, primarily Greenwich Hospital, 7 trainees. Okay, 7's not hundreds, but this was done on a relatively short timescale as well, and that did represent thousands and thousands of pounds worth of investment and subsidies that our charities leveraged for us. So don't forget this angle, it's important. And actually in the debrief with our charities, they stated with a better, longer run-up period, more time, that important thing again, they think they could supply many, many more trainees through their partnership organisations for such an event, perhaps even the whole quota that was required for the council to fulfil. So it's important. Here's another way that businesses engage. And what I'm trying to do here is give you an overview of all the different places that you have a connection with the corporate market and how they might work differently for you. Flag waving, t-shirt wearing, these people are low-level business engagement. They're joining in. This is a local business on the high street in Greenwich, actually. What I call joining in. It's not tons of funding. It's them being part of the spirit. It's them branding part of what they're doing for the local festival, this fantastic event that's happening. So why is this important? Well, there's Café Rouge, flags outside. It obviously boosts the local feeling, the PR and profile for you locally. And actually, given time and given a bit of application and noticing what's happening here, you could use these more to your advantage, all these businesses. Actually, Café Rouge is a big brand, as many of you will know. But even smaller businesses locally have an audience, they have an engagement, they have some connection with people who perhaps love what they do. You could give them a toolkit to perhaps sponsor one trainee, raise some money for a local young person to become a trainee on this fantastic event, the sailing to and from your port perhaps. If you do that, you might soon build up to 5, 10, 15 trainees, I believe. It's only possible if you give yourself time. So this is one of those examples. Give yourself time, you open up more options for yourself. And it doesn't have to be very complicated as well. Like the charities, let them do some work for you. And actually, this is good for them. This is them learning how to engage with their customers more, do something for the local community as well. So trainees, profile and PR could all come out of that relationship. Fairly straightforward, perhaps. This is an advert for the Old Royal Naval College, one of Greenwich's beautiful UNESCO heritage sites. So advertising, another revenue channel for you in programs. Publications, you might have a port newsletter, you might have a local authority newspaper, you'll be producing posters, no doubt, leaflets, billboards. There's one of our merchandisers, a girl selling our brochures in Greenwich. So this is where money is made. You sell this advertising, or one of your departments perhaps sells this advertising, or perhaps you haven't thought of it, but it's something you could do. And these adverts might be the only way some businesses want to engage with you. It actually might be a low-cost way for them to do it. However, do you sell? Do you get your program put together? Do you work out how much advertising space you've got in there and then sell on a half-page, full-page basis? Yes, absolutely you do. But if you know early on what you're doing, if it's possible, I know it's not always possible, you can leverage that value instead. You can then put it into your sponsorship packages that 2 years prior to your event you can start talking about. You can start giving them more benefits in their list, in their package, of things that they will recognise. Advertising value. They understand advertising. They might not yet understand 50 tall ships coming into your port, but they understand advertising. They understand the 1 million people that are going to be coming in, how that advert will be seen. These are ways that if you put it into your package early on, if you're able to, then you can leverage that value and you can increase the value of your sponsorship opportunities. Again, time and being connected and having a strategy are important here. Here's London. You won't see these pictures very well, but a couple of locations to demonstrate another point here. These pictures will be better. I'm sure we all recognise the O2, the Millennium Dome, on the Greenwich Peninsula there. And this is a hotel in Greenwich, just outside the town centre. Very lovely hotel. The Greenwich Hotel, part of the Mercure brand of hotels. The one on the right became a partner. The one on the left didn't in the end, but had some connection. But they both are important local stakeholders for an event that's happening in this non-port at this time. What they do, what they are able to do, and we'll talk about the Greenwich Hotel, is provide something. If it's not money, they can provide in-kind support or business in-kind. So this hotel has lovely rooms, it has lovely meeting facilities, it has event facilities. They wanted to promote themselves. So they were able to give something which we would have had to have spent money on otherwise, business in kind. Yes, it happens, and sometimes you want hard cash, but it's very, very valuable actually. I would say target it and be aware of it when you put your packages together and you think about who you're talking to out there. The Millennium Dome actually, it sort of came online a little bit late, but it's a huge thing, as you know, and many, I think it's the most successful event venue in the world or something like that. They had a lot to offer as well for various reasons. We couldn't engage with them in the end, but just I thought it demonstrated nicely with perhaps a iconic building you'd recognise of the power of in-kind support can be quite significant actually. So just to recap here, those things can go together. We'll talk about that again. CSR is important. Think about that. It's very important to sponsors. They will have it on their agenda. Foundations might be able to reach those through your charities. This joining in, it's not just about putting flags up and wearing T-shirts. It's actually about getting closer to businesses who might have more power than you think. Advertising and merchandise, work that into your package if you can, and create more value from the beginning. And then local venues and stakeholders and business in kind is really worthwhile and worth targeting in your strategy. How do you differentiate the value between all these different channels and each engagement? I'm not going to talk about how you value a sponsorship. It's a complicated thing. There's other places you can find that. You can research and so on. But I want to talk about some strategic elements around this. So here we've got some a poster or advertising board up in Toulon. We've got Bibby doing some corporate hospitality in Liverpool. A lovely sale, I think, on, I don't know if it was Europa or Morgenstern, I'm not sure actually. Hardy's Wine. I always think that was a nice bit of branding. And then Barclay again with some of their trainees on the bottom there. So there's various channels here, but which is best, what's most important? But I want to talk about this from up above, looking down really. And my message is, if you can, if you have time, don't break down all these different things you've got. Instead, package them up, package them together at first. A reminder here, you do that if you've got time, that's best. You've got the best thing to present here. But time goes on, that dynamic of time is very important, and you have to be flexible and change. So let's have a look at what happens if you break it down, in my view. There's your hospitality over there, that chunk. Advertising's over here. Sponsorship, that's really the whole thing, perhaps. There's some trainees, they're all individual. You can sell them individually as well, absolutely. I suggest if you do that, your corporate marketplace could become a bit like kids in a sweet shop, and that's a way of saying they might pick and choose. They might get excited about advertising because they understand advertising, or they might get excited about hospitality, and they are more inclined to deal with each element separately. It's broken down then. So what happens if that happens? You start inviting them to negotiate. You start saying, yes, you could have that party on its own, and indeed this will happen anyway and be sold separately, but when you're talking about sponsorship and engaging in corporate marketplace early on, you want to put it together. So they're going to start negotiating if you do that. You allow commoditization. Your advertising assets become a commodity. They see how much your full page advert and your brochure is going to cost. They will instantly start comparing that to advertising in the local magazine, to advertising in a specialist trade magazine or something. It starts giving them power and insight so they can start negotiating more. So, of course, this leads towards devaluation. Yep, this is theory, but it generally across the board, if you've got time and package them together, you're doing better. It looks much better. There's all your different bits in this chocolate box, but it's presented very nicely. It's a more attractive proposal altogether. It has more uniqueness, it's more impactful. You're offering them a package with great parties, with brand value, with CSR value. It's a stronger brand for you, it's a stronger story to tell. That idea about storytelling and content is much more powerful. And also, you remain in control. You start breaking stuff down and saying that costs that, that costs that. They start wheedling in there. They can start to negotiate. This way, you can say, we'd love you to get involved, but really we want someone to get involved in a big way. Much better to have one big sponsor than lots of little ones and lots of small companies buying hospitality or advertising. So that control is important and will make your lives easier if you can crack this, and it's best done early. So what about these assets? What do you actually have to sell beyond hospitality and trainees and so on? Well, this is just a screenshot of a spreadsheet that I use that breaks down all the possible assets you might have for any event, really, but this certainly applies to port events with tall ships. There's a lot there, and there's a process to go through, and research will tell you lots of things that you can do. So I'm not going to go into that, and there are places you can find out about that. But where do you start, really? Well, you research and brainstorm. You've got Sail Training International here. You've got other port cities who can tell you what they've done successfully or otherwise. You've got great workshops which can tell you how to really get lots of trainees, that kind of thing. Keep joined up. If you don't know, if you're selling sponsorship or advertising or something else, if you don't know what event is happening on the Friday night and when, you don't know there's an acrobatics display on a certain time that's going to attract certain levels of hospitality focus, If you don't know when the crew parade is and what it is and what's happening and how big it could be, you don't have all the information, so keep joined up within your own teams. And what can you really deliver? It's important that you don't just copy the next port, the last sponsorship proposal package you saw. Think about what you can really deliver, otherwise it's, things are going to go a bit wrong. But I do want to focus on a few things. There's a drop-down list I use on this spreadsheet, just to give examples of the kind of assets that you should start thinking about that might be a little bit, less usual. Online branding. You need to itemize all these things that are of value to you. So that doesn't just mean putting your sponsor's logo and message on a website. Are you going to have, you will have some social media as well. Detail that you'll have social media. What social media channels will you have? How many people can you engage with those channels? Are you going to have a promotional video before the event that you can get your sponsor's brand message onto? Perhaps an animation or something. Product placement. Most of us know product placement through seeing terrible examples of it on American films when they're drinking big Coca-Colas or something, and really it used to be frowned on. Now it's very much an accepted part of sponsorship. If your product has a sponsor, maybe your sponsor has a product, rather, maybe that product can feature in your post-event video. There are lots of things, maybe all small, but they build up to value and they become a checklist that the sponsor thinks, wow, there's quite a lot we're being offered here. Competitions. Competitions are a great way for anybody to engage with their audience and their customers. Maybe give the exclusive rights to your main sponsor to leverage competitions, maybe sail training places between the ports, maybe river cruises or harbour cruises on the ships, where people can enter for free and engage with that brand and with you ultimately. Give those competitions a value, give them the rights to a sponsor, possibly. Site promotion. You're going to have lots of people there over the event. Remember, does your sponsor want a stall, a stand, or a bigger area? Think about that. And the point is, detail all these things, and you'll be creating lots of value, lots of small bits of value which add up to a much bigger package. So you know what you're about now. You've done some research, you've got all your assets together. I would suggest now you're not blindfolded like you might have been before. You're not targeting sponsors in the corporate marketplace in a blind way. You're educated, you know what you're doing. You've got a great looking package, it looks really good, it's attractive, you're confident about it, so you can target much better. He's reminding us to be flexible though. It's not just about off-the-shelf packages. Saying all this, package up, you've got to negotiate. Once you've got them engaged, make sure you talk to them on their level, and if they're interested, fantastic. That's the first hurdle really, but then be flexible around your package while still protecting the integrity of it if you can. A few words here about trends in sponsorship generally. Brand engagement is a trend identified in 2013 that is on the rise, and what this means is corporate sponsors wanting people to get closer to their brand, feel something for their brand, not just see a stamped logo, which I think we all know these days. Advertising and sponsorship is much more sophisticated, but these clever marketing teams in the corporates will be thinking about that. Digital activation. No surprise there. Social media is growing. The way people interact with brands and experiences is changing. Brands are storytellers, from Felix Baumgartner jumping off a balloon in space. There's stories for brands that are being created all the time. Experiential experiences are at the top of what brands want to achieve for their customers these days, which is great for us. Co-creation with stakeholders, that means they want to go on this journey with you sometimes. A good sponsor who gets really engaged and buys into the idea of your event will want to sit down with you and work out how they can really do something different perhaps. So it's important you know what you're doing. Embrace the power of crowds. I'm actually, if I've got time, going to come on to this in a minute, so I'll skip past that bit. Cause-related sponsorship and support from corporations is up. It keeps going up. It's part of this authenticity in advertising, sponsorship and marketing. People want to be genuine and want to tell stories and want to do good things. So very relevant to your trainees. They're more powerful than you might think. Generally in sponsorship, sport has always been the biggest piece of the pie. It's about 38% of all sponsorship spend globally is for sports. It used to be 43% in 2012, so a slight downward dip after the Olympics maybe, but it's a big chunk of the pie. So don't break down, package up, identify your assets, know what you're really worth, avoid commoditizing, don't devalue, and this way you can leverage the full value. So how does a port maximize the profile? You've got all this stuff, how do you go out there and tell people about it? Do some skywriting would be good. Wouldn't it be nice if we could do that and all the brands could look up and say, oh, that's a good idea, that's impressive. However, it's going to come down to you and your team. You've done a lot of homework now, you've got a strategy, you've got a package. It's going to come down to a bit of legwork, of course. Talking about team, it's not just your sponsorship seller, your best salesman, it's everybody. Your business engagement manager, your design studio, it's everybody understanding what they've got. So you can all cross-sell. Anyone who's engaging with any corporate body out there understands the whole strategy, understands what they're doing, and you can cross-sell. You can also upsell as well, of course. How else do you get in touch with people out there? Thanks to Greenwich again. Here's one of their pages. Very simple. This shows some of their sponsors, and this is down the page where the Seafarers and Sea Cadets have their logos and links. And just at the bottom there, find out more. Very simply, there's a website address, email address rather, toolshipsponsor@royalgreenwich.gov.uk. Very simple. Get it up early. Get a nice message around it. That will bring you interested sponsors as your profile increases, and indeed it did. Sponsors who paid money. There it is. Quick word on specialist press. Okay, we're not sailing in this general sense of all these yachts you see here, but actually they're interested in the kind of things we do. So thinking about media partners, we'll all be looking for media partners in traditional areas. Don't forget your specialist press here. One reason I think specialist press can be important in sponsorship is something called the chairman's prerogative. If the CEO of a big company loves sailing, he'll sponsor sailing, even if it's not totally relevant to their brand. If he loves golf, he might think we're going to spend money on golf. If he loves something different, that's the direction he'll go sometimes. So that still happens these days. So it's important to connect on the level you're operating on. Sailing can be an important part of that. Run events in the run-up to your event, maybe a long way out. Tell your local business community. Here on the right is the Greenwich Hotel, an event for local businesses and some of our supporters. Making sure they understand the opportunities. Get out there early. If you have the opportunities, get a ship in so they can really experience it even better. This idea of experience isn't just for their clients, it's for your potential clients. They can experience your whole port event through a screen. They could see the statistics afterwards. But when they get to feel it and touch it and experience what it's like to be on the river or in a parade of sail and get to do this early, that's when people start understanding it actually. We all understand tall ship events. They don't necessarily do that. So this touchy-feely idea is very important. So know what you're about, know your targets. Think about your marketing partners. Think about your media partners and your websites, perhaps the specialist press and PR events, and cross-sell. And these all become easier with time and connections. Okay, so you got your big fish, you got your sponsor. It's important you treat them well. Okay, you might have the check paid already. But once you've got your sponsors, how do you keep them? That should say, love your big fish. It's important to nurture them. So you got them hooked. Nurture them, get more out of them. The hard work is done to an extent once you've got them to agree and sign a contract and pay you. But you can get much more out of them and give them a better experience if you keep building that relationship. The deliverables, the things you've said you're going to deliver in your contract, go through those point by point. Make sure they really understand what they are, and that you and all your team do as well, so you can really deliver what you say you're going to deliver. Afterwards, debrief. Go through what happened, what was good, what was bad, what business did you get out of this, what sort of visitors to your website did you get out of this. This is what we had. That's an important process. It doesn't just finish as soon as the event's over or as soon as the check is signed. And you're much more likely to get sponsored again. It's very likely many ports will have a second or a third tall ship event. This is going to help you to get sponsored again doing all this. Deliver, add value, follow up, debrief, just like DJ Goldie has here. Very quickly, understand your sponsors. Sponsors, for every pound or euro they spend, this doesn't happen in every case, I'm talking generally here, they will spend 3 more euros. So they spend £100,000 on sponsorship, they may spend £300,000 more in activating it, and that means them using it to talk in the best possible way and to communicate in the best possible way to their audience. So it's good to be aware of that. They're not just signing a check and that's the end of it for them. They then need to do something with that. It's good for you to know who, what, where, why, when, how. You know about them. What are they doing? Why are they sponsoring you? You've probably got a pretty good idea by this point now, actually. But you need to be aware of this as you go on as well, so you can create opportunities for them. This is a lot of information on this slide, but there's a YouTube reference there, which is on the end of the presentation, to James Gradwell of STI did a presentation last year about sponsorship packages, and I encourage you to look at that. There's a lot of detail on there about what you can put into packages and how you go about it. So I'm just going to quickly refer to that here. When you come to researching your targets and sponsors, there are some areas you can kind of go through. Financial areas, brand areas, stakeholders areas. Are they making a profit, this company? Are they just trying to survive? Are they acquiring a company or merging with someone else? Is this about culture change inside the company? Are they really actually trying to sell inside as well as outside? Are they trying to actually give their employees a good experience of the company? If so, hey, maybe they want to do some more hospitality. So start getting to know your sponsor as best you can, and you'll create more opportunities with them. They don't know necessarily you can have acrobats in the rigging. They don't know what it's like to have a tool ship to sail on a tool ship voyage and the fantastic experience that might come from that for their staff or their customers. Do they really know what a crew parade is all about? Tell them, make sure they understand the opportunities there for them. Talk to them about PR stunts. And this is about them working with you, the co-creating. Staff engagement and events, social media, content ideas, competition ideas. This is for you to tell them. Maybe they could sponsor all the uniforms. Maybe they could sponsor the cleanup of the port afterwards. There are reasons, if they've got a real green angle to an environmental aspect to their business, maybe that's important to them. And that allows you to upsell better once you've started. Rushing a bit here because we're getting on with time. I was asked by STI to do a bit of blue sky thinking. Always difficult to do that, it's just being asked, but here we go. So this is thinking about how things might go in the future. Where are trends going? What could you do? And this is really to stimulate some ideas for you. Anyone know what this might represent, this image? What could it be? Nope. Crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is one of the big trends in sponsorship and marketing and fundraising and raising finance. How could that work for us? And how does crowdfunding work? I'm going to go through it very quickly. I'm sure many of you know. You got an idea, you create a project or a product, perhaps. You tell people about it. People you're telling, they pledge cash. They love your idea. They want to buy this product. And we'll have a demonstration of this in a second. And in return for that, they get rewards. Maybe they get this product or they get extra perks. They love this idea and they've pledged their money, so they tell their social network. And the word spreads about this fantastic idea that you have, a business idea. And you hit your target, they've pledged through a professional website, and your product is then made. Your event happens. They experience it because they've pledged, and they've been on a journey with you. And that is huge. Billions and billions of pounds are raised every year this way. Here's a product. This is the most successful product on Kickstarter's crowdfunding website ever. So it's a cool box that plays music, makes cocktails, cooks sausages, I don't know. It does all these fantastic things. It's great. And so they came up with this idea, came up with the product concept, got it out there. The important thing is there, look how much money they raised. This is one product. So that is the power of crowdfunding. It's serious. They had a $50,000 goal. They raised $13 million. So we shouldn't ignore it, is my idea. What about this? So this is where it could evolve to, I'd like to think. Big business meets the people halfway. Crowdfunding's powerful. How can we connect that to sponsorship? All right, let's think about how we might go about that. This is a flight of fancy, if you like. Fantastic image. This is a still from a video at Stettin. Look at all those people, tall ships and backdrop. A great stage, Nelly Furtado playing a concert. Really successful. Cost a bit as well, I would think. So let's just theorise here. This is a band from Sunderland, our port in 2018. The Futureheads. Say you wanted to get them to come and play at the Tall Ships event, but it's going to cost money. Is it really in your budget? Have you got time to do it? You got an idea. You want them to come and play. You know they're going to be really popular. They're a big popular band. It's going to be a great local event, homecoming gig. Or maybe you want there's a couple of other local boys from Sunderland, the Sting, or Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. So anyway, you've got your idea. You've got your idea of an event. You want to have a concert, but actually you can't afford it. You could approach a crowdfunding platform. Rabble is one that deals with events and music gigs. They put them on. People pledge money because they want to go and see something. You could approach them. And I've spoken to crowdfunding professionals who think there is a hope for doing this kind of thing. And then you make a decision. Do you just go the crowdfunding route and create your own crowdfunding idea and get your own gig going? Or do you go this way? That's a typical gig goer. Do you try and connect with business here and create something altogether different and something new? Can you come to an agreement with this businessman, this potential sponsor? How would that look? How would that happen? So here's a brand, Virgin Money. They're very big in northeast England. Actually, they've got some connections with music. Perhaps you could talk to them about it. And your idea could be for them to go on this journey of crowdfunding an event with the crowd. You create a structure, and they might match the funding at a certain level. You get 20,000 people saying, yeah, I'd buy a ticket. You get Virgin say, when that happens, we'll match the funding. That might be they get 50% off their ticket price. That might mean that's a great thing for the crowd. That's a big encouragement. Actually, we'll give more perks as well. Virgin Money have these very nice business lounges. They could open those up on different days, not to sell, but to provide free Wi-Fi, lovely croissants and coffee, that kind of thing. An extra perk. When that happens, you've got two happy people here. The gig goers are happy. They've got a half-price ticket. They've got these extra perks they could cash in over the next year. So what's happened there? They've got new fans. He's got a new friend, a brand he likes. PR and profile has been boosted for the brand. They've got some extra perks. And together, a great event has been put on for those, for the crowd and for the business, and also for you. They've been on a journey together. That's that brand engagement we're talking about. And altogether, everyone's done it together. It's a much more emotional, experiential kind of thing to do. Very quick, so I'm going to wrap up very quickly here. Okay, so talking about crowdfunding, that's that cool box. This is some of the press it got. It gets you PR and profile just by doing this kind of thing. It's a way for you to get out there and make news, make waves. So do the detail. Consider that's ironic, consider the whole. Know your strategy, what you're doing. Work with joined up marketing. Make sure you're all connected and understand what it is you're doing and what you've got to offer. And start as soon as you can. And there are some links that you can download afterwards to some of the things I've spoken about. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You help me to start the movie? Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes. We are showing a short movie to start. 30 seconds.
I hope they heard that next door. that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Yes, good.
Yeah,
All right.
that's good. Thank you. Can I ask you first, has any one of you been to Ålesund? Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Oh, great potential. 4, 5. Yes. Okay, yes. Next year, from the 15th to the 18th of July, Ålesund is one of the 4 ports for the tall ships race. Together with Belfast, we're down to Kristiansand, also in Norway, and over to Aalborg as the final town. 2.5 years ago, I did an agreement with the Chamber of Commerce and my company. It's called KS Promotion, to sell a sponsorship for the event next year. As you told them, I'm also responsible for the Curtis Ark, what is named that time in 2001. The deal is based on commissions, not usual. And one of the success I will underline is that we gave the sponsors the possibility to pay the amount over 3 years, in 13, 14, and now 15. So already they have paid 2/3 of the total amount. That was a success criteria. I visit during 2-3 months, 65 companies, and deal with 52 of them. The agreement where the benefits in the deals were split depending on level. Okay, 1 million, you got A, B, C, D, and 500,000, and so on. And I can show you here. This is the first result. I'm not finished yet, but so far this is the situation. The biggest sponsor package is the full rigger. The biggest ship. We have 4 of them, paying in 480,000 euros. The next one is the bark. There are 6 companies. The brig, there is 4. And the most, of course, is in the 2 next levels, the schooner and the cutter, as we call them in Norway. Total sponsors 51, 1.3. And together with the sponsors, we have the community of Ålesund, we have the port authorities of Ålesund, and we have the foundation of a man called Kjell Holm. There are 3, and altogether 54 and 1,900,000 euros together. 1,900,000. Yes. Norwegians. So, as I told you, we are not finished. Yes.
Times 1,000?
Come again?
Times 1,000.
Yes.
I think, yeah. 1.9 million euros, I think I'm correct?
That's correct,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Among the sponsors, I have picked up some from the maritime industry, which is very big in Ålesund and the area around Ålesund. In alphabetic order, you can see from the ACL down to the Volstad shipping, and many of them are in the offshore industry. And if you see Bourbon, for example, they have 22 ships working throughout the world. And the biggest one, situated in the town of Ålesund, is Farstad Shipping, with the F on the ship. 62 and 2,250 employees together. And altogether, they have 220 ships working absolutely all over the world. And they have more than 11,000 employees. And all these are sponsors on different levels. We have, yes, the Rolls-Royce. I will come back to Rolls-Royce, a little bit about corporate hospitality. And this is a picture, take air photo. Yes. During the event next year, we will invite all the captains that comes to Ålesund to visit the education center. So Rolls-Royce have 3 education centers all over the world, and one of them are situated in Ålesund, and it lies here. So either on the Thursday or Friday during the event in Ålesund, we will come in because the city lies here. It's only 5 minutes by the car and go in here. So we will open the whole area for those who will visit us and come to see this education center. It's fantastic. So combined with the lunch, we will show you all the facilities.
And the cars are Rolls-Royce limousines. Is
No,
that
they
correct?
are Mercedes.
Ah, Mercedes.
Yes. I've been working with Mercedes for 30 years, and Peugeot, some Peugeot as well, yes. A nice photo. And here is from the same, the bridge, Sky Bridge. It's a simulator, a huge simulator in this center, which will be open on that during the visit, yes. And it's another photo of the beautiful town of Ålesund. This was taken during the last event in 2001. At that time it was called Kuttisark. Yes, it's not allowed anymore to say Kuttisark. So the harbor is here the big ships over there, and it will be similar this year. It's not big changes in 2001. So at that time we have 92 ships visit Ålesund in 2001. This year I think it was around 70, a little bit less, but hopefully next year we can come up again to 70, 75 maybe. We will see. A few words about the corporate hospitality and deck parties. I have been around and visit all the sponsors, and there is a big interest for this deck parties, and we already deal with many of them. I think about 15 now, but it's a huge parties for 100, 150, and we are continuing selling deck parties. So hopefully we will have something for the most of the ships when we come so far. Yes.